Welcome to Calm Clear Conversations. I'm Christopher Johnson of Calm Clear Communications, and joining me today is none other than the extraordinary individual, Nicole Ouellette.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for having me on your show. This is so fun.
And all right, hey, I wanted to have you on because I think you're an amazing person. Um,
Likewise.
well, the check is in the mail. Nicole, how do we know each other?
Well, we met each other through Robbie Samuels and through his No More Bad Zoom kind of certification and events that he has. So we're both kind of in the virtual event space, although you much more so than me. Um, I'm more of a marketing person who uses virtual events as kind of a tool in my tool belt for my clients. But I think you're much more like virtual events producing than I am. But that's how we got to know each other, I think. Right?
Absolutely,
Am I remembering that
absolutely.
right? Yeah.
You are. And yeah, the virtual event space for me is just an area where I can have fun. It is communications. It's what I enjoy doing, all wrapped up into one nice little package that I can
Yeah.
help clients with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for you, wait, you said, am I more virtual or are you more virtual? And what does more virtual mean? I think I'm
I
real.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, I would say that you're a real person, even though we haven't met in real life. You do seem like a real person. You don't seem like a fake person. Um, you don't seem like what are those? No, there's these things going around on TikTok right now. There are these profiles that people are convinced are like automatically generated, like they're not real people. So I don't think you're one of those. I think you're a real person. I would say that um when I look you up on LinkedIn or when I see what you're doing, it seems like you're doing virtual events like for the most part or voiceovers and things like that. Whereas, like I said, I would say less virtual events, but like I said, I've helped kind of my clients think of them as a tool. I've like promoted virtual events with things like Facebook ads and things like that. I'm just saying that, like, to me, virtual events, um, what were we talking about before we I'm like kind of moderately proficient in a lot of things, and I feel like that's how I feel about virtual events. But I'm glad that I guess we've gotten more into virtual events as a society, because I live in a really rural area, and so it's difficult for me to get to some events in terms of like costs and sort of time it takes to get places, but also finding like-minded people. It's nice that, the internet exists and we can have, talks like this, even though I'm, in the middle of the forest, essentially.
I understand. So remote work is not new necessarily for you.
No, I've been remote working for 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I started my company 15 years ago when I wanted to get more traffic to my website. So I started using tools like, I started blogging and using Facebook and all of that. And I really thought that this whole, social media thing was going to get really big. So I quit my job and started my own like marketing company. And I worked out of my house for 7 years before I opened my first co-working space. So I'm used to kind of working on my own schedule, and I've always really liked it. And I'm glad that more and more people are getting that opportunity too, because it sounds like that works for a lot of people in terms of getting up to set their work day, in terms of working at the times that are most productive for them, being able to be at home and get home things done and spend time with people, that they live with. So yeah, I'm glad that other people have that opportunity too at this point. But yeah, I've been doing this for a while.
What surprises you about other people having to do this now?
Well, like, I had to set up pretty firm boundaries at the beginning. I would say the first 6 months, like, people would message me and say, "Hey, do you wanna go get lunch or whatever?" But I was very, um, strict about kind of like during working hours, I was working, and just kinda even setting up a little bit of a ritual where, like, I would sit down and get to work at a certain time, and I would have, times I would schedule meetings and things like that. I really, like, wanted structure in my day. So I think as people have, I guess, started working remotely during all this, it can be tough to like add some bounds to this working thing. It feels like you're at work all the time if you're at home. If you live in a small space, and like I don't have enough room for an office, so my office is like in the corner of my living room. But yeah, I think for most people, I would say figuring out those bounds probably is a little bit difficult when you've been working, in a physical office at set times up until very recently. For most people, it's a bit of a shock to kind of get used to trying to have a bit of a routine around working from home.
Do people tend to be all of one way or the other? Meaning,
No,
oh, okay.
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I just think it's like a bit of an adjustment, because I definitely meet some people and they're like, so I own a couple of co-working spaces and they're like, I need to go somewhere to get work done. I can't work from home. They can't because, they have young kids, or they don't have a space in their house that they feel like they can do work from, or any number of other reasons. But no, I'm just saying this adjustment to, we want flexibility. We want to get things done. How do I figure that out for myself? I feel like it's an adjustment for anybody. I'm just saying I've had 15 years to adjust to it. And I think most people have started now, and we all work differently. So figuring that out for, I think most people, is at least a bit of a learning curve, even if you know yourself pretty well.
True.
Yeah.
Co-working spaces.
Yeah.
What are they? Why do I want to use a co-working space?
So I mentioned before that I spent 7 years working out of my house, right? And most of that time I've lived alone. Like I live alone now. And I remember one time the mailman came at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I opened my mouth and I said, thank you, as I collected the mail, and my voice cracked. And I realized I had gone the entire day without speaking until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought, ooh, this is not good for me. And so I started looking around at like, okay, what do other people do? What do other, I have a very small company. I might want to hire somebody. What am I going to do? Make them sit at my kitchen table, make them pet my dog? Like, it would be nice to go somewhere and get work done. And it would also be nice to get out of my house and just talk to another person, just for my mental health. So I started looking around. And as I traveled, I would see these co-working spaces in cities. And I thought, okay, well, I live in a small town, but it would be nice if there was a group of us that got together, we could get a nice office. I don't need full-time access to a conference room. I just need a conference room sometimes. And if we all need it sometimes, why not share one? And so this concept of co-working, I really liked it, because it kind of, yes, it gave me the physical space outside my house, but as importantly, it gave me someone to talk to besides the mailman. So that's when I started kind of looking into doing it. And I think now, I read a stat that I think 5 out of 8 new co-working spaces are opened in towns of under 100,000 people, which is definitely my case. So a co-working space is like a shared office environment. And typically they work on memberships. So like, for example, my co-working spaces have monthly memberships. So when I moved out of my house, the first thing I did before I opened my co-working space was I got an office. And so I went from paying $0 a month working from home. Suddenly I had signed a year-long lease. Suddenly I was paying for internet. Suddenly I was buying a sign. Suddenly I was paying an electric bill. And so going from $0 a month to hundreds of dollars a month was a pretty big jump for me. And I think most people need a little step in between. And so I think that's where co-working can fit in. So typically, like I said, it's member driven, which means that people, so if someone joins, October 20th, their membership goes until September 20th, and they can choose to renew, or they can just try it for a month and see how it works. So the idea of co-working is it's typically a physical space, it's typically membership driven. And there's typically a lot of like flexibility and some amount of amenities. The base level amenities being high-speed internet, desks, chairs, printer, and then some kind of room to have a private call or a meeting or something like that. So, and then some co-working spaces are very fancy and have, unlimited beer on tap, or, puppies on Fridays or something. And then, some of them are, a little bit more kind of laid back, and I think we're in the laid back camp, although I would not mind puppies on Fridays, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, so it's this idea of a shared space. And I will say most people are pretty surprised when they come to my small town and they find a co-working space, they're not expecting that. So check out, like, you never know if you're traveling somewhere, just check and see if they have a co-working space, because there's lots of small towns now that have them. So it's and it's really fun, especially if you're visiting a place. I mean, I've worked at a co-working spaces. I've met people, you meet people, you go for happy hour, it's kind of a nice connection into the community that you're spending some time in, whether you're a tourist or just moving somewhere or whatever. So to me, the co-working kind of goes with my business, in growing my business, making it more visible. And yeah, again, not being a completely social isolated weirdo working out of my house.
All right. Now, a couple of questions.
Okay.
Is there something like Airbnb for co-working spaces?
Kind of. Yeah, no, you can definitely, like I said, a lot of our members are people who are around for, so one of my co-working spaces is in Maine, Bar Harbor, Maine, which is visited by 4 million people every summer. So a lot of our members in the summer are people who are in town for a couple of weeks, or, they're there temporarily. So a lot of co-working spaces will let you, rent space for a few hours or a few days or a few weeks. So there is kind of some short term. But I know I'm part of this group it's called the Co-working Visa Program. And essentially we're all independently owned spaces and we're on the internet. And a member of my space can go use other spaces across the world, really, for 1 to 3 days for free. So basically, if someone comes to me and says, "Oh, hey, I'm part of this co-working space over here. I want to use a couple of, I want to work from, one of your locations for a couple of days. I've agreed to honor that." And so has everyone in this program. And I think last I checked, there was at least 500 in the US on there. From in most states, I didn't check Alaska and Hawaii, but I feel like I looked at the map and it was pretty well covered. And I know one of our members, so I'm in our New York space as I, talk with you today. One of our members here was going to Burlington, Vermont, which is like 3 or 4 hours away. And she's like, "Oh, I really wish there was a place like this there." And I said, "Hold on a minute." And so we pulled up the co-working visa thing and we looked it up. And sure enough, there was one in Burlington. And so she was able to use her membership to go there and work from there for a day while she was visiting people. So yeah, it's a nice thing. We're not a giant conglomerate, but like I said, we're all independently owned spaces that have kind of organized ourselves to work together, which is the spirit of co-working, really. Let's face it.
I will have to look into that. As
Yeah.
things start to open up a little bit more and we move about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, is there any opportunity for virtual co-working spaces?
Yeah, well, so my co-working space does have a virtual membership. We started it during the pandemic, probably like a lot of virtual memberships started. And so our virtual membership is 19 bucks a month. And part of what we offer for people is we have a Slack community, and there's a
Oh,
particularly active channel. We do the Pomodoro method. I don't know if you've heard of that. You basically
yeah.
like time tasks and you take a 5-minute break. So it's fun because you look at the Slack and someone's like, "All right, I'm going to be palming this morning," and then you're like, "All right, I'm going to palm with her," and so it's kind of a fun community, and we share resources in there as well, obviously, too. And so besides the Slack community, we also have a daily 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Zoom call for anybody who wants like an occasion to be at their desk. There is a group of people. It's 8 a.m. We're on Zoom and we can talk about what we want to do. We can ask for feedback on something, that kind of thing. And we also offer kind of promotional opportunities and things like that through the virtual membership. So at the peak of it, we had like 30. And obviously, as things have started to open up, some people have been like, "Yeah, I'm going back to work," or, so I think we have about 20 or 18 or something right now. So it's a small enough group that we all kind of know each other, but it's a big enough group too to like, have different kinds of conversations too. So I think, like you said, so check, you can join ours or just check your local co-working space might have a virtual option, which allows you kind of access to the community, maybe some marketing opportunities. I know for me, like somebody had this file that they downloaded and they couldn't work with it. And, I was able to cut it up for her because I do that kind of stuff. It was just an image that needed to be segmented, so I just kind of segmented it and threw it in the threw it in Slack for her. So we all kind of try to help each other out, and it's nice to know that even if you're self-employed, you have a group of people who are kind of rooting for you and willing to give you an opinion on something. And yeah, it's a nice idea, because the community part is, I think, because co-working, like the term, was first used in 1995. And I know for me in 1995, I was in ninth grade being dumped by my boyfriend so he could go play Doom in the computer lab. So this was kind of pre-internet being a thing. So now, so it kind of started off as a community of people that would share resources. And I forget exactly where it was started. I think somewhere in Europe, because, it's cool. And, things that are very cool just start somewhere that you sort of that's vaguely far away from from you, right? It's like, oh, I think it's somewhere in Europe. But yeah, so the idea of co-working originally was this idea of sharing resources in community. And the internet's been kind of added onto it because that's where community is now, for a lot of people. So yeah, so to me, like, co-working just speaks to my soul, and just kind of like was the natural second part of what I wanted to do in my professional life, was work with people who wanted to work together. And because I didn't become self-employed so I could sit by myself in a room all day, honestly.
Yeah. And, I think we have realized the importance and the power of being connected to other people during this, yeah, a lot of us don't go into an office anymore, but we need to be connected to people. We're working for ourselves, but we still need to be connected that, yeah, I'm going to be working from this to this, that bouncing ideas off of, that sharing.
Yeah.
So,
And before the pandemic, we had two levels of membership, one that gets you a dedicated desk, and one that's, a lot of people call it flex desk or something like that. It's just this idea that whatever desk is open, you can work at. And I noticed that before all this happened, there was some of us who we were just here all day. That was just, we were here like during normal business hours, and they were my coworkers. We would get coffee together and we would have lunch together and all of that. And then after we reopened, we closed for a period during I feel like we're still kind of at the height of the pandemic, but back when we thought it was the height of the pandemic, we closed for a few months. And what I noticed is when we opened back up, there was a lot more flexible membership. People kind of switched to that because they were like, they work from home part-time. They need a space to come to sometimes. So there's a lot more of that flexibility now but it's not just, like I said, I used to come in at 8 or 9 a.m. I'd work till 5, I'd go home, and that was my day. But I think now people kind of want to dip in and out of work a little bit. Okay. I'm sorry. My internet, I think, glitched out or something for a second. I'm not quite
no
sure why.
problem. Oh, all right. The name of your company?
Oh yeah. So my marketing company is Breaking Even Communications, and the co-working space is Anchor Space.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the co-working space, is there a lot of cross-pollination of companies of different industries and
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's the kind of people you wouldn't necessarily expect. One of our most active members is a massage therapist. Again, but she has a fair bit of work she does, right, on the internet. She, markets herself. She submits paperwork for, workers' comp insurance and things like that. So I would not have thought a massage therapist would have been one of our more active members. But we have lots of people in different kinds of industries, which is interesting to me too, because let's face it, like if you're in marketing, you're kind of nosy, and you just want to know how all these different businesses run and how to get them new clients. And so I like hearing from all the different people, kind of what they're up to. So yeah, I would say we serve a fair bit of people, not just internet people. And by internet people, I don't mean people who only exist on the internet. I mean people who I think we think of co-working, we think of like app developers and graphic designers. And yeah, there is some of that, but there's also like I said, the massage therapist. We have somebody who owns a caretaking company, going around kind of making sure people's houses are, she's closing up the houses for the summer houses for the winter, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of other industries. But yeah, it's not necessarily just the people you would think of. And it's not all like, 20 something app developers. It's like, people of different ages and backgrounds. And yeah, it kind of attracts a larger base than you would expect, I think, as somebody who, yeah,
And
doesn't
that
run a co-working space.
and that's the beautiful part, because it's not just it's not a one culture. It's not a mono.
Nope.
So yeah,
Yeah.
um, and that cross pollination, that's where that's where ideas germinate and take hold of different things. So
Mm-hmm.
because there's a massage therapist there, she may say, "Well, I've done it this way," and that may, "Oh, well, gee, I've never thought about that," and she may learn something. Conversely, it's like, "Oh, well, gee, that's much easier than what I was trying to do."
Yeah, and I did a broadcast with her, and she talked about kind of setting yourself up for like good home ergonomics. And her, and she had like the little doll, of the person,
Yeah,
that's made up of the segmented pieces that you would, I don't know, I think you typically see it in like a figure drawing class or something, but like she would sort of show like, okay, this is the alignment you want, and this is how you, fix it. And a couple of people sent us pictures of their home workspaces, and she sort of like gave ideas of how to like make it better so that you would, feel good at the end of the day after doing your computer work. But yeah, so like there's definitely stuff that we learned from each other for sure.
and see, as soon as you said alignment, I had to sit up straight.
I know I did the same thing. I said, as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's I that has become the contagiousness that used to be the yawn. So it used to
Mm-hmm.
be just a yawn, but now when you see someone sit up straight, it's like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Posture.
Yeah. You can always sit up straighter, I suppose.
So what is on the horizon for you?
It's a
Meaning,
yeah.
um, all right, before we went live, we were
Yeah.
talking a bit about you have a weekly broadcast.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So yeah, so something that I noticed in my marketing life was that, and you probably have noticed this if you've been on Facebook, social media has been really prioritizing live streaming content. There is, you notice if you follow a particular business or something, if they go live, you get a little notification on Facebook, or, it just seems like it prioritizes you seeing something if it's a live video. So I kind of saw this coming about a year and a half ago, and I thought, okay, so people want to watch live videos. I don't mind doing live videos. Obviously, we're here today. So I was trying to think of a way that I could consistently do live videos without it, without me becoming a full-time professional Twitch streamer or something. Like I just, I'm not very good at video games. So, I had to think of something else. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a weekly live stream. And because Tuesdays, then this was pre-pandemic, I think I started this. I have this Tuesday 7 a.m. meeting that I have to like be ready for. I have to do my hair, I have to do my makeup, whatever. You know what I mean? Like yeah,
I
right.
understand.
Yeah, I know. I knew you would understand. Um, more than
This
just about anybody.
well, this is
Hours.
it's oh yeah.
Hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
glad
thought,
you appreciate that.
no, I do. I do. And I've got, the 7 a.m. with them, and then I have the 8 a.m. Zoom call with the Anchor Space people. And so I'm like, all right, I am up. I am ready. I might as well schedule this live stream to start after those two meetings because I'm at my workspace, I'm at my desk, I look presentable. Let's do this. So I decided once a week was a good amount of time. And I just started coming up with ideas. And then people started asking me questions. And I was like, okay. So now I have a little spreadsheet of ideas. And I try to do something that, as mentioned previously, I'm sort of proficient in a lot of things. So I try to think of something that would be useful for a business owner to know about tech and marketing, you know, um, generally. So, um, you know, I did one broadcast, I called it BBW's Big Beautiful Websites, and how to make a website smaller, because how fast your website loads is important. In particular, if someone's on a mobile network, no one's going to wait 8 seconds for your website to load. I don't even think my mother would wait 8 seconds for my website to load. So So I did a whole broadcast about here's how you make your website load faster without you having to know a bunch of code or do anything super crazy. Just that that this is a thing. Here's how you test your page load time, and here's some things you can fix to, make your website more streamlined. And that kind of little kind of bite-sized, I give you the words that people would use, maybe a tool or two so that you can independently verify, and then some additional resources if people want to kind of dive into it a little bit more. Before this whole internet thing, before I was saying thank you to the mailman with a cracking voice typing at my house, I thought I was going to be a high school science teacher. And so I am used to, I took a curriculum class and whatever. So I feel like I have a good idea of how to set up information and present information in a way that doesn't overwhelm people. Just kind of what you need to know. And obviously I'm going to sort of simplify some things a little bit because, it's a 15-minute broadcast. It's not a semester long class here, but I kind of wanted to take that kind of idea of, hey, I know some stuff that's randomly useful, and just kind of put it out there. And by seeing what people would watch and by seeing what people would ask me, that would tell me a lot about my customers and what they needed. In addition to also giving me a piece of content that would be promoted more easily on social media. Because let's face it, we've all put stuff out there and you're like, oh, 3 people saw this. It's kind of discouraging, right? So yeah, the live stream video to me kind of spoke to my, okay, I want to do this. Seems like marketing, websites are prioritizing, social media websites are prioritizing this now. Gives me some content for my blog. So yeah, I started this about probably about a year ago, actually, now that I think about it. I thought it was longer ago, but a little longer than a year ago. So there's a fair bit of, if people want to go watch back episodes, I think the YouTube channel is probably the best place to get it. And they can go to, you can go to playlists, and I've got a playlist all about websites. So I kind of demystify search engine optimization and things like that. And then I got a playlist about social media. And then I've got a playlist, I think I called it general business, for things that didn't quite fit into either of those categories, but that were sort of generally useful online. So yeah, that's kind of how I started, and where I'm at now. I think I'll keep going with it because, like I said, and now I'm meeting people like you, and other people, and it's like, okay, I can have this person on as a guest and we can talk about this, and I can bring other people who have sort of related knowledge to talk about stuff that I think my clients should know about. So it's been kind of a win-win. And like I said, I got to meet some cool people. People are asking me good questions, and it's a way for me to kind of connect with people once a week, at least. Yeah, in a live way.
15 minutes. So
Yeah.
15 minutes, one topic or one.
Yeah,
Sort of,
there's like a theme,
yeah.
It's not just like me just talking about whatever I feel like talking about. I'm not Oprah. Nobody cares. At least I don't think they do.
And that's Tuesday at 8:00 Eastern.
Yeah.
And you can catch the replay.
No, it's Tuesday at 9:15 Eastern.
Tuesday at 9:15 Eastern.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you can catch the replay whenever it's convenient.
Exactly.
All right. All right. I was talking with a buddy of mine last night, entrepreneurship. And, he's hung out his own shingle. He's an architect.
Good for him.
What we have discovered in setting up a business, it's all really content creation. Because as an architect, he still has to promote, market, produce content to tell people that he's an architect and that he can do what they need done. So all of entrepreneurship, content creation. And it sounds like your weekly webisodes. Is webisodes a real word?
I feel like
it is today.
Yeah, I think it is a word.
Okay.
Yeah.
The weekly content that you create is beneficial to a lot of people. So I am going to make sure that I go and binge a bunch.
It's, I try to make it as entertaining as possible. And to me, if you can stand in front of a bunch of 17-year-olds and talk about atomic orbitals while half of them are rolling their eyes at you, you can do anything. I'm fearless. I I'll just keep going. I
That's
try to
the
just
and see, that's a wonderful thing. So what branch specifically of science did you want to teach?
physical. So in the state of Maine, and I don't know if it's like this other places, when you get your certification for high school, so 9th through 12th grade, you can either pick physical sciences or life sciences. And you basically need a degree almost. So you need a certain amount of subject matter expertise, obviously. I think I forget how many credits, but the equivalent to like 7 or 8 classes. And then you obviously take classes about how to teach stuff so you can, give fair assessments and write learning plans for people who need some modifications, things like that. So my college major, or one of them, was geology, so I didn't have enough life science credits to teach life science. So I thought I was going to be teaching like physics, chemistry, environmental science. That's what I thought I was going to be teaching. um,
And see, I find that fascinating. Well, okay. I think of you as communications marketing,
yeah, no, totally.
but sciencey.
Well, and to me, the science, I went to a liberal arts college, right? My minor's in French, and I ended up actually getting a French. I finished it up and so I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one in geology and one in French. I joke that it's my right brain, left brain. But to me, sort of that liberal arts education, yeah, it was a science degree, but I had to write a pretty lengthy the undergraduate thesis. I had to present it. I have to look at graphs and interpret data, and I do that with people's webs. I look at Google Analytics, and when people say like, "Okay, what do you see here?" That I kind of all those skills sort of related to what I do now. And what I always tell people too is that so I mainly work, for example, in WordPress, which is a content management system for websites. It's a pretty popular one at this point,
Mm-hmm.
but it was invented, I think, in 2009, and I graduated college in 2003. It might have been 2007. So like the software that I use every day didn't even exist when I was in college. Social media also did not exist when I was in college. So even if I would have wanted to study these things, like they didn't exist. But mainly, I think, like I said, this sort of liberal arts, we're going to teach you how to communicate. We're going to teach you how to look at data. We're going to teach you how to present. We're going to teach you how to, look at information critically. All that stuff, I think, sort of prepared me for this career in marketing that I'm in now. But yeah, I sometimes wonder if I would have gotten a marketing degree, how I would have liked it. But yeah, so that's kind of, I sort of got here in a sort of roundabout way. But I feel like most people get into their careers in a roundabout way. I guess you don't really
Absolutely.
fall into like surgery or something. I feel like that kind of is a
I
path that you've
hope not.
chosen. Yeah, we all hope not. But I think some paths you can sort of fall into, and this definitely was one of those for me. But I mean, I've been doing it for 15 years and I really like it. So I
Good.
guess, yeah, I guess it worked out.
Absolutely. It sounds like you are a curious individual.
I love learning stuff, and I love learning. I love meeting people for that reason. I just feel like if I could, I guess at the end of this life, if I felt like I experienced and learned from everybody, I would feel like that was my life well spent. But I just think
Yeah.
there's always new stuff to learn, and I'm energized by it, to be honest. I mean, that's my nightmare would be to do the same exact thing every day. That would be awful.
Yeah, I understand. And
Yeah.
see, is that curiosity? That is exactly why I wanted to make this connection and have a conversation, because
Yeah.
I am also a curious individual.
Yes.
I want to learn.
Me too.
And all right, the easiest way to learn, easy,
Mhm.
is to try and teach somebody else.
Yep. And when you think you know something, and then so sometimes I'll start preparing a live stream and I'll say, "Oh, I kind of thought I knew this a little bit better or whatever," or I'll think of a way to present it and it actually informs me of like a way to approach it differently. So as I did one about automation the other day,
Mhm.
and so as Robbie, our mutual friend, was talking about how he uses if this then that. So
Yes.
basically he makes it so that it checks his local weather, and if it's going to rain, it texts him in the morning to remind him to pack an umbrella as like an audit, like, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then as I started thinking about how to explain how that would happen, I started like saying, okay, well, I've got these smart light bulbs. I've got these little tiles on my keys, so I don't lose them, like, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, that's and I was trying to figure out how to explain the Internet of Things, which sounds like a super complicated thing. But because I was kind of putting all these ideas together for the live stream, I feel like I finally myself understood the Internet of Things a little bit better. Because the online world, or like things we set up online, can actually change things in our physical reality. We can program our robot vacuum, from a app on our phone. We can, there's all of these different devices and more that are, have chips built in, or things that we can automate or sync with other things or whatever. And I think it's just, I used to be nervous about it, but I was like, no, I get this now. But yeah, so looking into the Internet of Things to try to explain it to other people deepened my understanding of it. So yeah, the live streams are good for me too, for sure. Because they definitely make sure I understand what I'm talking about. And most of the time I think I do, but then I start looking into it and understand I
Exactly.
need to understand it better, for sure.
And the more I look into it, the more it's like, oh, all right, well, gee, now I have a better understanding. Trying to
Mhm.
explain it to somebody else. Huh. All right. Gee, I just sort of took those 3 steps for granted, but now that I have to explain it, yeah, you
Yeah.
do A, then you do B, then you do C.
Yeah, and the order actually is important now that I'm thinking about it, because yeah, totally. Yeah, I've gotten to that trap myself, for sure.
Yes. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you
Yes.
so
No,
much.
thank you. This was great. I love it.
Likewise, and I'll go and watch a lot of content on YouTube.
You don't have to. But like I said, I try to keep the energy up, because I appreciate people. I mean, 15 minutes in this day and age feels like a long time to watch a video. So
No.
I try to
Bite-sized learning.
keep it interesting and keep the energy up, because yeah, I otherwise I got to go back and teach high school, and I'm not sure. I don't think most high school kids would be ready for me.
I understand. Well, thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Chris.